Hello, my name is Chris Ramsey, and today I'm going to talk about airline safety for U.S. Airways, ramp personnel. If you're looking for perfect safety, you'll do well to sit on a fence and watch birds. But if you really want to learn, you must mount a machine and become acquainted with the tricks by actual trial. This quote is from Wilbur Wright when he addressed the Western Society of Engineers in Chicago, September 18, 1901. Every person that flies has at least looked out the window once and wondered what those gentlemen or women do when they're walking around the plane or getting ready for pushback or coming in. For me to give this speech, I am currently certified in Delta, U.S. Airways, and American Airlines safety procedures and policies. I have to take yearly certifications and tests to keep up to date with safety measures and any changing policies that take place. Today, I'm going to inform you a little bit about the biggest safety procedures for U.S. Airways. The three most important points for airline safety for U.S. Airways is when the plane gets ready to land, when the plane is sitting at the jet bridge, and the third is when the plane gets ready to push back. My first point I'm going to talk about is when the plane is getting ready to land. What are the three safety measures that are the biggest, that are most concerned? First would be FOD, or foreign object debris. You must always walk the diamond of safety, which is basically a painted outline to where the plane pulls in. When this happens, two agents must walk down both sides to make sure that there's no common debris or anything, which mainly would be screws, pieces of paper, the zippers off bags, because if any of those get thrown up, they could hit somebody, they can get into an aircraft and damage it where it would cost thousands of dollars, delays, which is a really big safety hazard for us. My second point is the second safety measure that is required before the plane gets there is to inspect all the machinery that will be used. The four types of machines that they will use before that plane gets there are pushbacks, tugs, tow bars, and belt loaders. Each of those must be inspected. The machines that are driven, which is the tugs, the pushback, and the belt loader, you must check the brakes, seat belts, and fluid levels. If those three are missing or none of those are at equal levels to where they're supposed to be, you cannot use those machines, which is also a safety hazard for us. And what we do is called a lockout tagout. The last safety measure before the plane gets there is to make sure you have proper hearing material, hearing protection. This includes earplugs or ear muffs. In our safety policies handbook, it also states that if you wear both of them, it also protects your hearing a lot better than it does just wearing one of them. My second point is what safety measures we take when the plane is there at the jet bridge. The first safety measure is what we call the marshal who brings the plane in. What he does, the first safety measure dealing with him is that he must be able to see that plane without any obstruction. This is done by making sure that all the equipment is outside the diamond of safety or is not even near the airplane coming in. Also, what helps is what we call a wing walker, which is a man that stands on the right side of him next closest to what the jet bridge is. What this does is allow him to see where the plane is coming in and if he needs to move it over. And also the wing walker helps guide the plane by telling the pilot that you can't come over this far, you need to stay more to the left or right, depending on how it's set up. The third and final thing is when the plane gets there and stops, the marshaller, who is the gentleman that just brought the plane in and stopped it, must take a set of chalks and put them under the front tire. Once he does this, he gives the signal of chalks in, and this allows the pilot to release his brakes and the plane to come to a complete stop on its own. When this happens, we have a beacon light that's underneath the plane that shuts off and sets it up for the wing walker walker to put in the other chocks and cones and form what we call the inner diamond of safety. This allows machinery to get ready to start moving in. My third and final point is when we get ready to do the pushback. The first safety measure for pushback is to make sure that all bins, doors, and any covers that are not being used to be shut and secure. This allows us to prepare to move the chocks and for the pilot to know that he gets a little beacon that states that, hey, everything is closed. We're getting ready to push back. The second is the marshaller checks the safety cones and chocks are pulled out from under the plane and around it. And when this happens, he pulls the final chocks out from the bottom. He gives the signal of chocks removed, and this allows the pilot to know that, yes, we're ready to push back, and that the pushback person that's sitting in the tug is getting ready to do it on his orders. The final safety check during the pushback is when the plane comes to a complete stop. We unhook the tow bar. When we do this, the wing walker goes over to unplug the headset. Well, the last panel where the headset comes out, we have to do what we call a triple tap. You tap it 3 times. Well, there's 2 panels above it and below it. You have to tap each of those 3 times. Those are the most common panels that fly open when they get ready to take off. And what happens is that they could rip off and fly back into the engine and cause a safety damage, which really, well, you can imagine what would happen if that happens. When this happens, and they're finally finished with that, they tell the marshaller. The marshaller will give the sending signal 3 times. He will clap and then salute the pilot. This allows the pilot to get ready to take off and go down the runway so he can leave. I hope everyone learned something about the safety procedures that we do at our airline here at Gulfport for US Airways. I hope this shed some light on what agents do to help provide safety. And also, as I stated earlier about taking tests to be certified for safety, today on February 17th, I just took my yearly qualification for US Airways and passed with over 100. Now that I gave you this little information, if you see someone scared looking out or a little kid wondering what those guys are doing, you can let them know that we're out there to make sure that the plane is safe, that everything's secure, and for you guys to have a safe and enjoyable flight without any worries. And as Wilbur Wright said, if you're looking for perfect safety, you'll do well to sit on a fence and watch birds. But if you really want to learn safety, you must mount a machine and become acquainted with the tricks by actual trial. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you have a good evening.